Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com. Gonna finally do this video about the band, the Reign of Kindo. Hopefully I can do some other videos this morning, I don't know, because I got appointments, unfortunately. So, okay, so the story with the Reign of Kindo, my story with them is that it was in 2008, it was 2008, like the summer of 2008. Among the Dredge fans on the Traversing message board, that was suggested. I don't know what exactly the description was or whatever, but I have to look it up. That board's been resurrected, thankfully. But you know, and I checked them out for whatever reason, and I liked them. But I remember thinking, and I had also been a fan of the band, well, two bands, Aviatic and One Republic. One Republic, who not that long before that had this enormous hit from a remix of their song Apologize from Timbaland. Remember that? But One Republic actually approached me on MySpace. I don't know how it is. Because I was a U2 fan or something else, you know. But like, you should check her music out. And but then yeah, within a year or less like that. And I liked their debut album anyway. But I was kind of just saccharine about them and everything. So when I listened to the Reign of Kindo initially, it's just like piano-driven, mostly, not entirely, but piano-driven jazzy pop. The singer kind of did remind me a little of the singer from One Republic. Not entirely, but a little bit. I was like, you know, this isn't bad, but it just has like a One Republic vibe to it, and I was just kind of lukewarm about it. But, you know, I kind of dismissed it a little bit. I mean, I liked it, but I didn't love it. Then it was like maybe a month later, or a little less than that. That was like June or July, or I remember when the debut album came out. I'd have to look that up. In fact, let me just do that right now. Let's see here. Their debut album, because it was not when the EP had come out, so the debut album was released officially. It was in 2008. Rhythm, chord, and melody. It was August, so but I think it was like an advanced copy. Anyway, so maybe that was in August, but it really was not until maybe September or even October that I had sort of given them a second assessment, and I was like, oh wow, because I'd seen some other people loving them on the Dredge message board, and then I saw their name at least one or two other times. I'm like, oh, this band's actually pretty good. The drummer is fantastic, and the songs are catchy. So then I got into them late 2008 and 2009, and then I noticed a lot of people when I actually suggested them on multiple message boards, and people were like, oh yeah, wow, this is a lot better than I expected. So I became a pretty big fan. So the story with the Reign of Kindo, though, is I'll show my collection now, is, was it 3/4 of the members or something like that were in the band this day and age, which people had known previously. They formed in 2001, this day and age, but there's a bunch of differences. But I don't have the first This Day and Age album. It's called Start Over on Monday. But I have the second one, Always Leave the Ground, right here. Just show the CD quickly. I'm not going to go into detail with it. And then I have the third one. That was in 2004. This one came out in 2004. The third one, The Bell and the Hammer. I would see this. Got this at Cheapo. I paid all of $2 for it, so you can see. Interesting artwork. I can show that. But you know, the sad thing is, I listened to some of this a few weeks ago when I was thinking about making a video about these guys. I didn't listen to all of it. I listened to some of this too. This one. I don't think the first album's even on Spotify. Start Over on Monday. I can't really talk in depth about it. The biggest thing is that, first of all, the singer was different. The singer was this guy named Jeffrey Martin. Not the singer obviously from Jeff Martin from the Tea Party. But Joey Secchiaroli was the bass player. He became the lead singer of the Reign of Kindo. So Kelly Sciandra, he was the keyboard player. He was also, and Steve Payton. So those three at least. Mike Flair Carroll was the guitarist. And you look at who Kindo's Mike Carroll. Yeah, he also. So, it's like he did percussion too. So those four out of the five ended up, after this day and age, ended up basically disbanding, formed the Reign of Kindo in 2000. I think it was 2000. Technically, it was 2006, 2007. Not sure. Let's see. Their lineup in history is a little it's 2006. And they were in Buffalo. So, but I can say I like moments, especially this. But the sort of vocal style that's been described as emo, that's part of it. The arrangements, at least on this album, I listened to like about half of it, aren't as adventurous as the Reign of Kindo. But this record, the last album, The Bell and the Hammer, I think I need to spend a little more time with. Because I remember liking it. I bought it for, I liked the Kindo, and I liked it when I listened to it once or twice. But I don't think I've ever found anything on here to be as good as Kindo or the Reign of Kindo. But still, I think I've slept on it a little bit. I know people that really like this day and age. This is probably their favorite. So it's a little bit like the Mars Volta and At the Drive-In in a way. But anyway, so the Reign of Kindo put out their first EP in 2007. It was just a self-titled. Like I said, it was very jazz-driven pop. Now, this is a Japanese repressing. I remember it was out of print not that long after I got into them, so I couldn't find it, and they repressed it. But I was it was in the shrink wrap, and I was kind of on the fence, but I decided why not just open it. I think it's still, you can still probably find it. Although CDs, of course, aren't common, but it has the cover of Do You Realize? It's a live cover from the Flaming Lips. I'm not a fan of the Flaming Lips, but I like this version better than, obviously, listening to there's the track list, the Flaming Lips. But, they've had a lot of late lineup change. I'll just mention that right now, but here's the CD. And this is a Japanese version. So it came with this book. All the lyrics are in both Japanese and... I think the one song, Needle and Thread, which is the second track, is the one that they play live, still to this day, here and there. But, I hadn't listened to this EP in a number of years. I listened to it a few weeks ago. Maybe it was last week. But yeah, it's got one of those little sidebar things, which, it's like I like having, because it's like very kind of signature of Japanese pressings, but again, it's not like part of the CD. It's like it could go on here. It just goes for the cover of the CD. I don't know. Sorry. So anyway, that came out in 2007. It's a really good EP. I mean, it mentioned it's like Hard to Believe and Just Wait also are really good. One Man Parade. I can't remember if I hearted all those tracks on Spotify. Here it is. I have it. The thing is, it does remind me. No, I just Hard to Believe and Just Wait. I mean, the piano and the drums especially. They do use guitar too. Keep in mind, but it's definitely a little more raw still compared to what they would do. But it definitely is like a prelude or a precursor to their terrific debut album. So it came out, as I mentioned, August 25th, 26th, 2008. I have a couple copies on CD. I have it on vinyl too. This, as much as I love pretty much everything they've done, the Reign of Kindo / Kindo, this remains my favorite record. Which the song, here's the track list. Get the glare off of it. I'm going to avoid that. It's like track number 6 rather. Till We Make Our Scent it's like a prog rock, epic. And it's not really epic. It's only like 5.5, 6 minutes long, something like that. But it's got this great sort of adventurous. That was one of the description I read. It's like all these songs on this record, almost all of them have like these fun adventures in a way. They all have just like, segues and crescendos that lead to something really enjoy. Really like the climaxes. Holdout was initially my favorite track. I'll show this. The CD is nothing, incredible in terms of artwork, but there it is. But Holdout is probably the drummer, Steve Payton, I think his name is. Because again, their lineup, I want to be, not get information about their lineup being different, because it was. Yeah. that, I mean, he stands out on a lot of this record. Let's see if I can find the picture of him. But he stands out maybe most on that. I think this might be him. He stands out most on that. Oh my god, it's crazy. That's like some of the. It's like jazz drumming, but there's Joey the singer, and he plays guitar. The other guitarist, bass player, Jeff Jarvis. He's the only member. See, the current lineup only has Jeff Jarvis and Joey Sacchiaroli. Those are the only two that are still with the band because they've had lineup changes. This is the other guitarist, who was Mike Carroll. I don't think Jeff Jarvis wasn't, because Joey played bass in this day and age. Jeff Jarvis wasn't in this day and age, though, but the keyboard player, Kelly Sciandra at that point, and then, drummer. But moments in between, Breathe Again. Breathe Again has very sort of, call it dark, I don't know. I remember, I'm on the Patreon for the Reign of Kindo, and they did kind of go into a little detail about what it was influenced by. But the lyrics they're dark, ironic. It's a tale I keep on thinking of, not to get in total detail, but it's about a guy who basically is trying to get poetic justice on someone, more or less, around Christmas time. The movie series, it's not Dead Again. Silent Night, Deadly Night. There's something, I mean, I keep on thinking of that when I think of the lyrics. It's around Christmas time, if I recall. But the music on Breathe Again is great. But Great Blue Sea, Let It Go. They use a lot of, they use some soprano sax on that track. Nice to Meet You is good. Something in the Way That You Are. The title track, which is all instrumental. I hear that music play. Morning Cloud is maybe one of the only tracks I'm just like, it's good, but it's not as good as the rest of the record, and hold on. I mean, it's just, the piano is just fantastic, and some of the guitars and just the drive and the energy at points, and some of Joey's vocals, kind of, I can understand why they went with him, and I don't know what happened with their friend from this day and age, Jeffrey Martin, but. So I remember then the next record, after getting a little momentum, it took a couple of years, but people were still getting into them back in 2009. And in 2010, they released their second record, This Is What Happens. 2 copies of that, too. And this record, I know some people really liked it. They didn't like it more, necessarily, as the rhythm, chord, and melody. But the thing they're jazz influence. They're on this Candy Rat Records. At least some of these issues were on Candy Rat, which is known for this jazz. Some of the jazz artists. In fact, Dean McGraw, who's among other genres of jazz artists, he's on there, as well as the guy who did the Africa cover, Andy. Can't remember his last name, but This album is more jazz oriented. It's more subdued and stripped down. They do a sequel track called From Till We Make Our Ascent to Now We've Made Our Ascent, which references the original. Here's the track list. References the previous track, but it just is a sequel of the sorts. It's not a bad tune. It just doesn't have exactly what the original did, but. My favorite song on this, Out of Sight, Out of Mind, is probably the track. I'll admit it sounds the most like something from Rhythm, Chord, and Melody. Psalm, that song starts out slow, the last track, but then it has this guitar riff, and that's probably the least jazz-like among all. A lot of it is romantic, and I'm thinking of the next record. But I mean, Flowers by the Moon, Nightingale, Bullets in the Air, Symptom of Stumbling, that one I probably slept on. Thrill of the Fall. This one is stripped down. It's more subdued at points, but it has moments. Like the first record, it's you get into each track, and then there's a moment or two you like on most of these songs. Blistered Hands. I haven't listened to that song in a long time. Then they did this 8-bit thing called not This Is What Happens, but This Is Also What Happens. It's like a remix. They did that with a couple different records. Did I show this? Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. But yeah, I mean, I think this record is sort of it's always been liked, but I think it's been sort of not thought of in their catalog by some people. Again, I'm guilty of that to an extent in that I don't think of this record. I think of some of the songs. I know they play some of them live. They play Thrill of the Fall, and they play like Nightingale often, and Flowers by the Moon. They don't play Out of Sight, Out of Mind that often, I'm aware of, which, again, that's the one. And The Battle in the Years is another one they do play here and there, and Bullets in the Air. So it's got a lot of good songs on it. It's not a go-to because of how good the first record was, rhythm, chord, and melody, and I think just from an earworm standpoint and an energy standpoint, but I think it's probably just aged well at the same time. So that was 2010. But again, that record took a while to come out. The next record, it just seemed, maybe just a patience or excitement to get more music from these guys. It took again another three plus years to come out with their next record. That was Play with Fire in 2013. And this record, I'll fully admit, there's definitely a difference in the sound. Although they still used a fair amount of piano, but was more electric. And I think that they weren't necessarily going to continue just to play jazz pop of a sort. One of the bands that people compare them to is Keane, which I understand. The Deer Hunter, Keane, Dredge to an extent, Mute Math. I've seen comparisons, which are all somewhat valid. Even though I'm not a fan of Keane, but they did Genesis's That's All, of course, that cover they got known for. But this record, I think, I remember my friend Min Lee with City 97 wrote a review of and really loved, and we thought it might finally get them the exposure they deserve because they're so good. It definitely is more varied in style too. It's not like it's all jazzy, but it's more proggy. The first track, the opening, The Hero, the Saint, the Tyrant, and the Terrorist, and then I Hate Music are probably my favorites. But I mean, again, there's the song Impossible World is great. Feeling in the Night was a single, and Sunshine was a single. Sunshine is catchy, kind of go figure based on the title, very almost poppy. That wouldn't it be better, wouldn't that be better? It has that kind of hook in it. It's playful. It almost sounds like they're playing to like a kid's thing on that track, I kind of think of. But the lyrics in I Hate Music just hit home, basically it's referencing American Idol, and I don't know if the Voice is around at that point, but basically it's a bunch of saying, how sad music has come to with people that are trying to make money and get famous singing other people's songs on a show, and it's like but it gets kind of a little bit profane and just overt, but it's definitely speaking, kind of like with Kevin Gilbert, speaking to saying things that a lot of people like me that like underground art and progressive rock especially, that no one understands our tastes. It's like these people are just sheep that aren't real into music. They're not musicians necessarily. They're watching American Idol and just thinking this is music of today. And it's like, that's why he says, if this is what music is today, I hate music. But it's got a great keyboard solo, but again, it's all keys. It's like they weren't really using keys and synthesizers before this that much. But on this record, but The Hero, the Saint, the Tyrant, and the Terrorist, the opening track has this punchy riff and catchy it's which they've kind of adopted or used here and there since at points. And it's also funky. They brought in like a funk element with this record. But like a song like Dust, which is kind of dreamy and epic at points. Help It, Sing When No One's Around. Romancing a Stranger is romantic. I mean, it's a great kind of soothing piece. Don't Haze Me. So I mean, this record, when it came out, I remember I thought, well, this might be the best Kindo record, Reign of Kindo record, and over time I definitely don't feel that it's better than the debut album, but every time I go back to it I notice new things. So in 2013 when it came out, I was among my top records. 2013's become one of those weird years where, like, my favorite record is this record from the band, The Red Paintings, but the production bugs me on that record, so it's weird. In 2013, I look as one of, a year that happens every so often with albums of the year where it's sort of a lost year. You had Stephen Wilson's record, "The Raven That Refused to Sing," which I love, but I almost think it still gets overpraised. But I still love that record. You had Typhoon's, their best record, but this record was in that mix, and so I look back on 2013. There's been some other stuff that's come up. It's still among the top 5 records, which at that point plays better than any record. Well, part of it was in 2008 when Rhythm Chord Medley came out. I think that was like in the 20s or 30s for me. So, because I hadn't really fully like loved it at the end of the year when I was doing my albums of the year. It took basically till 2009 and 2010. So at that point they were touring. The weird thing is with this record and with this record, they had gone not down under, but they had gone to, of all places, Brazil. They didn't tour that much in the U.S., only in their native New York, like Buffalo or whatever, and a couple other areas like Ohio. But, I was like, when am I going to see them? They played in Chicago, I think on one of the Prague festivals, actually. But they still hadn't come here, so... But they did sign up, they did set up a Patreon. They were one of the first bands that I ever knew that set up a Patreon. I signed up for that, I want to say 2017. Which the deal with their Patreon was they were going to put a new song up every month. A little bit what the band 3 did a few years before that. But they didn't have a Patreon 3. But it was I was only $1 a month. So I was like, I'll do this. I love this band. It's not that much money. And I get a new song. So they put up all these new songs. That was for at least the better part of 2 years, because I think they probably launched it like in 2016, because I didn't sign up right away. But what the deal was, I had already heard 15 or 20 songs, at least over 10, maybe 15, and I finally got to see them in 2017 live at the Amsterdam Bar. I think that was the show they opened for Jason Richardson, if I'm not mistaken. They had toured with like Scale the Summit and some other bands before that, but didn't come here. But that tour did come here. It was a really big deal to finally see them after being a fan for almost 10 years. Now, I came to learn they played at, back in 2007, the same day Between the Buried and Me played All of Colors at Triple Rock. Just down the road, they played at the Hexagon Bar, but I didn't know who they were 2007. So that was the last time they had come here. So it had been like about a decade. But they finally, the next year, they had all those songs on Patreon that people had heard, and I loved a lot of them, but they finally released their last record, and they kind of rebranded their name as Kindo as opposed to the Reign of Kindo, but they like to still be referred to as either. I mean, they kind of dismissed it to a point in the last couple of years in 2020, 2019. Now they're going back to the Reign of Kindo. I don't know. People call them the same thing. But this is Happy However After, the album that came out. The album is called, yeah, as you can see. And of course, that was kind of one of the first times ever, in some ways, other than like hearing like stuff that's been shared online, that I'd heard everything on a record before it came out. Although a couple of these tracks that were on here, like Obsolete and Colder Than December, even Catch the Gleam, well, those are 3 tracks they had shared on Patreon, but I think I kind of slept on a bit, and I hadn't listened to that much. But all the others, I was like, I know this album, I know all the songs, they're great. However, there's some songs that did not make this record, but I just was looking online just yesterday, the day before. There's a song that they released to the Patreons within this mix. They've released maybe 30-some songs. They have a couple albums they've basically given to the Patreons ahead of time. Patreon members. A song called The Poor and Hungry Kings. I think it's just Poor and Hungry Kings. That track is unbelievably good. It's short. It's very funky and catchy. It's got this just dun 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 dun. It's got these fast, heavy, funky riffs. It's not that long and it's catchy. However, it's about 20 seconds in. The intro is kind of slow, and a lot of mainly just Joey's vocals. But that song ended up on the Japanese version of this. I was looking at how much it would cost to buy that version. And you'd have to get it from Japan, and it would be somewhere north of $40. It'd be probably close to $50 with shipping. But I don't know, someday. I'm wondering if they'll release it on the next record or release it in some other form, because it's not even on Spotify. I have access to it because it's on through the Patreon, and I downloaded it. But as far as Happy However After, the album proper that I got here, not the Japanese version, here's the track list. Without question, my favorite track still remains the song About Love. It's very kind of ambient, epic, kind of almost spacey in some ways, but it's mesmerizing, and it's kind of a ballad, but not really. It's more, it just flows and gets kind of heavier in a sense with more layers. And Joey's vocal performance is amazing on that track. The rest of it, Smell of a Rose has a great hook to it. The first track, Human Convention. The thing I'll always think about this record for is when I got a flash drive I was using in my car. This is one of the first albums I put on it. It may have been the first one, actually. In 2018, I was starting to use. I bought a new car in 2016, but I didn't ever use a flash drive. I never realized I could, because I don't use an iPod or anything like that. It has a CD player and a radio, but it also has a USB input that I could put flash drives. And so, but that record got on there, and so loading the USB, the flash drive in there to get the whole catalog, especially when I take something out and put something in, it takes forever. But it defaults sometimes to the first record, so it would constantly go back to that album without even me wanting to hear it. So I almost got sick of Human Convention, because it's just I heard that. That was one of the songs I heard many times and liked from the Patreon, but I almost have grown kind of sick of the intro. Now, that's been a couple of years since I've had to deal with that, because I got different flash drives and I'm not using that flash drive anymore. But yeah, this record, I listened to it again yesterday, and it's kind of, it's a good album. That's the best way to put it. It was in my top, I think it was in the top 5 actually in 2018. That was, whether both Play With Fire, the previous record had the same, although I think there's clearly I prefer Play With Fire to an extent, but Smell of a Rose, Return to Me, they did a video for, and I think of the video for that, but that's kind of a power ballad, but it's got a great vocal performance from Joey on that one, especially. But yeah, this album is a lot more keyboard driven and more prog rock. The track City of Gods, the last track, the bottom there, is them sounding most like a quote unquote prog band. And at this point, when this came out in 2019, I think the progressive rock community finally had embraced them to a point where they were playing at some progressive rock festivals. And when this album came out, it's I got to listen to that album again. And the comparisons of the Deer Hunter, they always, for better or for worse, they get compared to the Deer Hunter. I think the comparisons are about, they're definitely 50% more than they should be. I can understand the comparisons, the sort of art prog rock with sort of indie or whatever, and the jazz side of their sound, it's not gone, but it definitely has been stripped down quite a bit since, even from Play With Fire, maybe even but the 2 records before that. But that doesn't mean this record's bad. Now, the lineup, as I was mentioning, their lineup had changed, even with the last record, but they have, on this record, Rocco Delaneve, he became the keyboard player, and so piano and keyboard player, and I think he's made a difference. Kendall Lance did not play in this, but he's now the current drummer. But you had a couple of the holdovers, Michael Carroll and a guy named Danny Pizarro, actually, on the second, was the piano player on This Is What Happens. He played up and before, he did not play on this record. So you had these different, Kelly had left, so he played piano too. So they had 2 different piano players. Their lineups have definitely, it's like a Yes thing almost in a way. There's only been a few consistent members. I think probably just for time and money. It's like they're trying to live off of this band, and some of these guys have other things, so they didn't always have certain people live. They have a percussionist named Rodney Flood now too. He's been with them the last couple of years. So, but yeah, Happy However After I still like a lot. So you have 4 records from the Reign of Kindo, and all of them are good. That's one reason why I really have faith in this band. Plus the EP. Some people actually, I know I've seen people say that the EP may be their best work. I'm not gonna go that far, but unfortunately I didn't listen to the EP for a long time. But you could almost attach the EP, like they could do a deluxe version of Rhythm Chord Melody with the EP, because the sound definitely carried over, which understandably so. But I'll just kind of quickly show my vinyl. Of course, I have the 2 records they put out on vinyl. Rhythm, Chord, and Melody came out like, I want to say, about 6 months ago, or the order was in 2020, but they finally issued it in 2019. It finally was released, or I got it. It was this past winter, and this does include October Storm, which was a Japanese bonus track. They're big in Japan. There's no question they're popular in Japan, and so many bands, like literally millions of albums that have come out. The Japanese version often will include extra tracks. October Storm you can find on YouTube. There's a video of them. Oh my God, that song is worthy of the rest of this record. But yeah, I showed this. I don't think there's a book. It's just heavyweight vinyl. Oh, there's a sheet though. Yeah, I did show this because I showed this in a video just 6 months ago or whatever. I'm not gonna go in detail, but yeah, I mean, just a normal black, 180. Well, I'll show it, I guess. 180 or 200 gram. This thing's feels like it's gonna fall and be have to like dig it out. Just 180, 200 gram. But you do get October Storm. I didn't ever got the Japanese version on CD. I wish they would release, like if they did a record store, they could release "Till We Make Our Ascent" as a Japanese, or as a single, like a 12-inch or a 7-inch single, like on Record Store Day. But I don't know if it's ever gonna happen. But oh man, so and then I have Happy Hour Ever After on vinyl too, which came out. I think I got this. It didn't come out right away. I know this is the kind of thing where the CD I got first. In fact, I probably got an extra copy. That's right. I was in the storage space when I showed this. I forgot about and I got him to sign this. I got maybe Joey to sign it. There you go. It's a cool gatefold. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. It came with like this poster of sorts, or Yeah, because I distinctly remember when I got this, I was in the storage space showing it, so. But it's kind of weird because when you released, 15, 20, 20, like 25 songs to Patreon, and you're trying to pick what, Jeffrey Peter did the artwork on this, you're trying to pick what you want to put on your album. I mean, I'm sure they figured it out, but I mean, that Poor and Hungry Kings isn't the only track they released that I loved. About Love was one of the ones I remember when I loved. I mean, it was like that. If I picked my top 5 Patreon tracks, About Love and Poor and Hungry Kings would be on that list. Human Convention. So I could mention though, after I'm done showing this, they did the artwork for like all these songs. It's kind of like Ben Sinister's Stories of Brothers. They did like a piece of art for like almost every song, like every song. They were very thorough with this record, Happy Hour Ever After, so I'm sure that it basically came out the way they wanted. Because they waited. That was 2018. It was 5 years later. They had been releasing albums every couple of years before that, although again it felt like longer. I remember some of the fans were just claiming, "When's the next Reign of Kindo? When's the next Reign of Kindo?" Yep. So, Obsolete and City of Gods. City of Gods is an epic track, but it's got this little instrumental section in the bridge that's pretty crazy, and it's just like, it's like, this is Kindo embracing their prog side at the, even though it's only like a 6-minute track. Yeah, and of course this is the lyric sheet, which, more or less is blown up version of the one with the CD, but I was just gonna say, so the last couple of years they haven't been sharing tracks on Patreon, but they do like a weekly town hall. They've been sharing like some live versions, some covers. They did a number of covers. They did, besides the Flaming Lips, they did Fleetwood Mac. They did, I'm trying to remember what other covers they did. A lot of older stuff, but they actually covered Hallelujah live. From Leonard Cohen, of course, made popular by Jeff Buckley, but. They put out an EP earlier this year in 2021 called Wither, which is just like 3 tracks. But I mean, if you look at them on Spotify, some of these, Wither was on, I'm almost certain it was on the Patreon first. Yeah, what the heck? Why is this thing just being, and this is my internet, of course, which I figured out what I need to do up here. It's not going to work. But Anyway, they put out Wither, and it's got a couple extra tracks with it. I'm not getting internet. I'm not gonna. Let me just pause. Well, no. Okay. Let's see if it's gonna load. No, it's not gonna load. Oh, I keep on getting this day and age. Yeah, something went wrong. That's the problem. I'm trying to remember the other songs they've released. They've released just a few different tracks, but their next full length, because they have, I could go over the track list there. It's Happy Over. Let's see here. Play with Fire. No, it doesn't. I'm not going to be able to come up with it because it just. I'm guessing my internet is just not being nice to me. This is the problem with Spotify. It is working now. There it is. Okay, so Soul and Treasure and Better Off Together. Those were the main ones. They did. I forgot to mention they put out another 8-bit for Play with Fire. Was like, I can't remember what it was called. It was called which I probably streamed online. It's called Play. Yeah, Play, which looks like the Nintendo, but the original Nintendo cartridges, but because it sounds like Nintendo 8-bit. Anyway, we'll see what happens with the Reign of Kindo / Kindo. Like I said, there's probably been, Happy However After had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 tracks. So there's at least another album and change, even though probably in 2020, 2021, we had, all throughout 2019 they were still putting new songs up, from my memory. Either new songs or live songs, but there was new songs, and they had already put out like every month for the better part of 2+ years or 3 years. Just do the math. That's literally, they probably have shared with Patreon probably 30 songs or more. So they have well more than enough tracks to put out another record. What ends up on that, and whether those songs that never like Porn Hungry Kings, I don't know. I think more the fans that aren't on the Patreon need to hear that song. But we'll see what happens. But for now, they haven't put out their 5th record. A lot of times bands have their 5th record. It's like a milestone. So we'll see what that happens. Maybe in 2022. Maybe in 20. I know that there was a title floating around earlier this year. In fact, I wrote that down. It was called, what was it called? I wrote it down. It was like in April. They mentioned something on, let's see here, Wither and Bloom, which of course they had the Wither EP. That might be the title of it, but we'll see. I wouldn't expect it to come out this year unless it kind of came out of the blue, but maybe in 2022. But anyway, what's your take on the Reign of Kindo? Do you know them? Do you know this day and age? If you're a fan of the Deer Hunter, I've never heard them, you should definitely check them out. Or, like I mentioned, Mute Math, Dredge. They opened for Kansas once, Jazz, Pop, or Keen. Keen's another one, even though I'm not a huge fan of Keen. I've noticed a lot of people that are outsiders, especially, that don't know a lot of prog rock, compared them to Keen. So, but even some people I know that do like Keen and do like this day and age. I guess if I revisit this record especially, maybe I'll do a separate video just talking more about it. I mean, I start a couple of the tracks on here. The second star to the right, the title track, The Bell and the Hammer, Sarah, Poor Sarah, but I didn't even get through it all because I was just busy that day. So anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.